starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, and thank you for joining us in this webinar session today. I'm sorry about a few minutes late. Always some technical difficulties with
You can say it's my fault, Mickey. It's okay. It's
I
fine.
mean, if you admit it, that's fine. So
It's not installed. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
Also, I noticed that GoToWebinar actually changed their some of their features and platforms, so it's also new to us. Maybe it's also new to the members. But I hope that people can see us and people can hear us. So let's start. We have some significant things to discuss today. So first of all, how are you doing today, Shai?
I'm doing very well.
All right. So
Members as well.
yes. Um, okay. So I guess we can start the webinar. Maybe the way that I would suggest that we start it, Shai, um, since we do have few hundreds of people in this webinar today, and we also have another 5 different sessions in the next week or so. So I guess that whoever could attend today, they attended today. Those who have registered for today but couldn't make it today, then they have more options. Also, the attendees, if you know someone that is missing or couldn't attend today, we have 5 more sessions, so you can let them know about the links, and we are going also to communicate with them anyway. So that's about some housekeeping stuff. So the way that we're going to do the webinar today, we're going to discuss about some of the major developments, findings, etc. about the class defense position and situation as it stands right now. We're going to discuss about the CD app, which is a new platform that PGC actually worked on for so long, and now they're going to release it probably today. And then we're also going to have some polls for the end of the webinar, which are very important. So once we finish, please, everybody, stay tuned and try to answer those questions, which are very important. So, Shai, I think that the way that I would suggest starting, maybe you have a different idea, is that let's just maybe quickly, for the first 5 minutes, do a quick recap about about the past a little bit, to bring everybody up to date, and then we can take it from there. So, over to you, Shai.
Well, everybody remembers that we went to tax court, and everybody recalls that we got a bad judgment, a judgment that is not in our favor and that we didn't like. After that, we had to make the decision with counsel whether it was worth it, not worth it to appeal, and what the grounds for appeal were. Counsel felt extremely strong that we had several very powerful grounds for appeal, and they prepared that document to actually go forward and outline all of the facts of the trial with specific claims that were grounds for appeal. And this was finally delivered into the court, accepted by the court, and then after that there was a reply from the CRA. And this has now come in. From the time that this came in, well, we've been ready every single day. As you remember what the prediction was, we were supposed to be in court by this summer already on the appeal. So first of all, it could happen every day. The last thing that happened was this, however, which finalized the position in the court we go into, also the CRA's position and also our position. We have, by the way, wanted very much to release what we're doing today the day after that came out in court. We just have not been prepared because of the CDApp. So this is the earliest moment that we can actually do it. We would have liked to have done it the day after. Now, our position is, as we approach the FCA, and we know that oral arguments will be made, and we know based on what, because the written documents have all been submitted and replied to. But now we also know the outcome. It's not a theory anymore. Those documents are official documents. They're not just things that we intend to do. Now they form part of the record. And the record now says something very interesting. The record now says by our own counsel that what we want is to go back to tax court. Now, this might not sound like conventional, what a client usually wants when they appeal. They don't ask to go back to the trial court, they ask to win on appeal. We could still win on appeal. That can happen. The judges can do that. But our own counsel didn't even ask for that. And that's very irregular. And the reason our counsel didn't ask for it, if you haven't figured it out yet, is because actually there was never any problem mentioned about the tax shelter. There's nothing to appeal to, actually. We went to court in order to try a tax shelter, right? Or actually several tax shelters between COEP and RLG and Mission Life and PGI. And they were all represented by the group of the test cases that are the lead cases to the case, who are all our members. They never actually got a chance to discuss the tax shelter after all these years. And so now we need to be able to admit the evidence that was not allowed to be admitted. So there was nothing to talk about. So there was no problem of the tax shelter ever mentioned. There was just no tax shelter because there was no evidence that was allowed to be admitted to describe or discuss or explain in any way the tax shelter process. All of our documents of the debt settlement, for example, were not admitted. So no one, how could you talk about a program that involves a debt if you don't actually show the debt settlement? Because there was no documents of any sort, there was no debt of any sort, there was no tax shelter, there was no nothing. So we all know that that's not true. It doesn't take a genius to know that thousands of people didn't have a completely different life experience. No, it's just a matter of evidence and procedure. And, you know, there's always drama, everybody. So much drama. And for me, one drama I'll share with you. It came to our attention after the judgment. If you recall, in some of our last webinars, we said that we were going to investigate something. Well, we found out that the judge, who specifically asked questions on record in court, I think 2 times, one of Graham and one with you live as a witness. The judge himself asked a question about the law firm of the original promoters of RLG and Mission Life. The name of the law firm was Denton's, very famous international firm. And the judge asked about their law firm, asked you and asked Graham, and it was for me, so strange. Didn't
Right.
understand. I didn't understand why is that relevant. But anyway, we found out that the judge, Justice Spiro, he worked at Denton's. He was a partner, a tax partner at Denton's. During exactly the time when the evidence that we were trying to admit that dealt with the counterparties, right, MLF, etc., was taking place or executed with lawyers, partners in his firm. He was a partner in the firm, a tax partner in the firm. So incredible. So, if we go back to tax court, we won't have the same judge. And our evidence will have to be looked at. And we will be exactly back on track with what I would think is a huge advantage. I've heard time and time again from members that we're going in losing, like the score is 1-0 or something like that, but that's not true. That's not correct. The loss in the court case didn't tell us anything about the tax shelter, but it told us about rules of evidence and procedure. Okay, so if those rules were themselves so poorly applied and we win on not on the tax shelter, but on rules of evidence and procedure, which if you saw the notice of appeal, which we provided for everybody to see, you could see exactly squarely what happened in the trial, certain things that the judge did that are being reviewed right now, and if we win, we would go back to... From the very beginning, we always said that in order for us to lose, the ridiculous has to happen. The most ridiculous thing happened is that we never actually got a chance to even show the court the program, the tax program. No evidence was even allowed. Now, if the judges actually believe that everything, if that evidence were to be admitted, would also be prima facie, it is possible that they could, even though our own counsel asked for the court case to go back to tax court, it is possible that they could just give you a win. That is true. But I don't want to count on things like that. It is also possible that when they send it back to tax court, that they could also give it with instructions, such as you have to admit the evidence that was denied, for example. So the judges can do whatever they want. They have 3 judges, not 1 like in tax court. And evidence is not being supplied other than the record of the judgment itself. And so it is very interesting, that's for sure. It makes for great television law drama, but this is a real life situation that requires us to now be thinking like lawyers and strategists. We need to understand that there are only certain paths that can be the outcome and that it can happen any day, right? Anytime. This is it. We're ready to go. They can call us anytime. And we need to be prepared. Now we know, very likely, if we win, we go back to tax court. If we lose, we ask for leave to appeal to the Supreme Court. Yes, it is possible that, as you've heard before that in these situations, if in fact the judges send it back to the tax court, that is an added impetus and a very there's a very strong incentive for the CRA to also engage settlement discussions. Also, for these reasons, it's very important that we're prepared to know how to deal with those settlement discussions, which is a large reason why the CDAP has been devised the way it has been. We need to have interactivity with the people who are affected by this. And instead of making subjective decisions, especially when it comes to settlement amounts, etc., we want to be able to get the input from the people that it affects. So we have this kind of virtuous circle, of course, whereby the people that are funding the class defense are the ones that have the voting rights for the class defense. You are the people that are affected by the vote. You are people that are affected by the agreements to be bound with the test cases, and we are funding them and strategizing their cases. So now, since we know the outcome, we have to be prepared for all of those different outcomes. So now you're not just funding litigation the way you did before. Now we're funding all sorts of possible outcomes and paths and the readiness that is required to do any of the particular paths as we go along. It's a risk management and financial engineering project, which is very difficult. It also requires us to have that communication with you, so the voting system will help. And obviously, time is not something that is on our side because we don't control or know when this is going to happen. We know that it could be any moment now. We've already waited quite a long time since the judgment. You know that we were supposed to already go to court. All the documents are in. We're very happy that we have not yet gone to court so that we can actually release the CDAP before we go to court, because that's a big part of being ready for court and what can happen very quickly after. So on today's webinar, I think we want to just show you more about the CDAP and make you understand, obviously, why there is so much value added in the infrastructure now as we progress through, but also for you to understand that in many ways, you should feel more positive about the outcome of the case, not less positive. I actually want people to understand that the legal situation is probably not what you originally thought. And those who understand the legal situation will actually see that we are in a very strong position right now. And we should more than ever take that type of victory seriously. It's not to say that we shouldn't entertain settlement discussions if they come our way. I think that the legal process has taught me that there's never such a thing as a sure case. But I do think that we should have more confidence in where we are than they should have in where they are. I would rather be us right now. Of course, the CRA and the government have infinitely deep pockets, or as deep as they go in Canada these days, but we don't have, obviously, the same luxury. So we have to manage our affairs way more diligently. And this, of course, is our attempt of doing exactly that. So maybe Mickey, I can leave it there for now. And if you have any specific points,
just a summary of it. So just to make it clear to everybody. Now, as you mentioned, any day we can be called to the Federal Court of Appeal, where our counsel will go there and present the facts and be part of the whatever is called this process in the FCA. And then there is going to be an outcome, as we said. and then it's either we win and our arguments actually holds, which based on everything we see, I mean, we believe that we have the right arguments. And in the Federal Court of Appeal, there are 3 judges, right? Not just one, and not Justice Spiro, who has worked previously at Denton's, which were adversarial to Justice Trading, etc., etc. So we have 3 judges over there, and then let's say that we win. So if we win, actually our counsel, Joel Sherman from Deloitte, explicitly said that he is requesting to go back to the tax code. Now, let's assume we go back to the tax code. Okay? Then, of course, we're going to have to prepare for the tax code. I mean, the submission of evidence, like the whole few years of readiness that we had to do for this tax code, we're going to have to do it again for the next tax code if we go back to tax code, obviously.
Right.
And then if we win or lose in that tax code, there's probably going to be an appeal later on. So, I mean, for some people, they might say, oh my God, this is going for so many years. But I think that, first of all, this is the reality on one hand. But on the other hand, I also would emphasize that as long as this is going on, people don't have to pay yet anything to
That's
the CRA, right? They have this large tax in dispute.
Right.
And, you know, on one side, you want the matter to be resolved, which makes sense, right? But on the other hand, until it's resolved, and of course we do everything we can, everything in our capacity and our capabilities to win the case, and even if we go back to the tax code, to do everything to win in tax code, and if the CRA will appeal then, so we like go all the way, and in the meantime, those like large tax in disputes are still in dispute, so people don't have to pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to emphasize that for people so they understand the situation. We don't want to drag this forever, that's for sure not. I mean, this is taking so much time, from PGC's time to deal with, right, on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. And some things on a quarter basis, and some things on a weekly basis, and monthly basis, and yearly basis. We do want the matter to be resolved, but unfortunately we are not controlling the factors to decide one way or another. So yeah, I mean, this is the situation right now. Okay, we go to the FCA, which can happen any day now. And then if we win, we go back to tax code, and then we have to go through the whole preparation again. And of course, that's one of the most, or the major reasons that we are now launching the CD app, is actually exactly to be prepared for that, right? And as history says, and Shai, you can actually correct me if I'm wrong, every time that we are preparing on time, we actually do things in the proper way. So if you recall, like what, six years ago, I mean, think about it, Shai. 6 years ago, we started the funding for USP 1.0.
Right.
It was in 2020.
Okay, all right.
Like we're today, like 6 years later,
Right.
after the USP 1, which was supposed to be a funding mechanism
Right.
to basically take the whole class defense up to the judgment in tax code. And here we are, all close to the end of the second half of 2026, waiting for appeal. And then as it looks right now, we're probably gonna, and hopefully gonna, win in tax code. That's what we hope, that's what we believe. And then we probably, because that's the outcome that our council actually decided, that we go back to the tax code in front of a different judge. So we're gonna have to go through all this all over again, preparing the evidence and submitting the evidence and preparing the witnesses and doing the test cases and all of that all over again.
Expert witnesses. evaluation reports,
Exactly.
blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Yes.
But in many ways, we're way ahead because we've done the work. We've learned a lot of things, and they've wiped out all of their arguments. Right? They can't now make a better arguments. They have no arguments. So and now they have no choice but to see our evidence. Or listen, or you just don't agree and you say, no, I don't predict that. I predict that you're going to lose and you're going to have to appeal, and we're going to appeal to the Supreme Court. Okay. That's a different process, takes different time, different costs, but it's a likely event. It's a definite event if we lose. So either way, we need to be active. However, the process is very different. So how do we deal with it? And we deal with it by letting basically the people decide. And we have two different pricing mechanisms for two different predicted outcomes. And this way, it actually is quite a fair way of crowdfunding. So maybe you can show exactly how those two things look. If you're a person that you agree with what we think is going to happen, what seems to be the only logical outcome, which is that we go back to tax court. Or if you say, no, maybe you're going to win. Okay, maybe we're going to win, in which case you shouldn't have to continue to pay anything because we're going to win. So you wouldn't want to pay anything if we're going to win. Because if you've paid for USP 2.0, you're covered up until the end of the Federal Court of Appeal. The problem is the next stage. So if you're believing that we're going to win, even though we asked to go back to tax court, they say, no, you win, appeal won, all finished. That's one outcome. But I think the more realistic outcome is either that we win and they send us back to tax court like we asked, where the court will be able to see the evidence for the first time because it never saw it, or somehow we're all wrong, we lose, and then we have to appeal to the Supreme Court. So, and regardless of what happens, win or lose, it still requires the same process. So we have to be prepared for all of this without knowing for sure what's going to happen. So your predictions and our predictions mean something, and we've created a program that allows you to basically predict the best, for you, what you think is going to happen, and it's priced accordingly. So I think that's the key to a very fair process that we don't control and we don't know how it works, but we have to be prepared for anyway. And we have different people that think different things. So we created a situation that allows you to kind of strategize with your conscience and believe who you want to believe and do your own due diligence, but it's structured based on what we think works and will work the best. And it's a bit different than the USP in that sense, especially because it's all now part of a technological platform with amazing services that you've never had before. Mickey, do you want to maybe show that? Because I don't want to steal your thunder. You've worked so hard on it, and it's just great. So
Sure.
maybe you should show now what we're going to cover in the CD app.
Absolutely. So for that, I'm going to share my screen. Just a second.
Mm-hmm. And I'll take myself off of my screen for now, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, it's in process. Let's see. Screen All right, so right after this webinar, or maybe let's say in about an hour, between 1 to 2 hours after we conclude this webinar, all the participants on this webinar are going to receive a link and their username and access code to the CD app, which is the Class Defense app on the PGC's website. So this is the screen that we are going to see. You will have your email address, which is the username, and the access code, which is actually the password to access your profile. Once you access your profile, and for this particular example, I'm going to use my demo platform, okay? This platform is my demo platform. This is actually my information, which is a dummy information. I never participated in those programs, but for training purposes and demonstration purposes, I actually built an account for myself so I can share the information with the participants. So once you log in, then you're going to see your dashboard, okay? In the dashboard, first you're going to see your status, okay? So my status, as the vast majority of the people in this call, is going to be active USP 1 plus USP 2.0, okay? Which means that as long as you paid for USP 1 and USP 2, you're active through the USP 1 and USP 2. Which means that USP 1 covered all the participants up until the decision in the tax court, right? The judgment in the tax court. And USP 2.0 covered people up until the decision in the Federal Court of Appeal, right? Which is the one that we are now waiting for, and is the one that we now any day are waiting to go and do the hearing with our counsel. So as long as you participated in USP 1 and USP 2, you are covered up until the judgment in the Federal Court of Appeal. But what comes next? Next, as we understand, if we win, we go back to the tax court, and then we have to do all of that all over again. If we lose, we go probably to the Supreme Court. So as we always like to prepare ourselves to the next stage, the same way we did with USP 1, the same thing we did with USP 2.0, we're now going to get ready, okay, for what happens after the Federal Court of Appeal. And if your memory serves you, then you probably remember and realize that first comers and those that take actions first actually pays the least at the end of the day, because PGC needs that funding in order to prepare for the next stage, right? So actually, and eventually, the very vast majority of the participants in the class defense used to always take the path of, okay, I want to pay fast and the cheapest. And I'm also going to introduce that option for all of you today. So this is, as I said, my journey. Your class defense journey is continuing. I'm active USP 1, USP 2, and the next stage readiness not yet activated. And then, of course, you can read what does it mean exactly. The current coverage versus the next stage readiness, Federal Court of Appeal, it's covered as long as you paid for USP 1 and USP 2. Next stage readiness, once you actually activate your next stage readiness, it adds all of those other services. So this is my own profile, okay? Each one of you will have a different profile based on who you are, based on your original loan amount, based on the USP 1.0 paid, based on USP 2.0 paid, which basically those two are creating the participation basis, okay? So my participation basis is USP 1 plus USP 2. That's what I paid so far. So if I paid, and that's, as I said, a demo, it's not real. If I paid for USP 1, let's say $7,200, and for USP 2.0, I paid another $7,200. So altogether, I paid for the class defense $14,400. Okay, that actually creates my participation basis. And in a few seconds, we're going to see what the participation basis means. Here we can see also the status. So my current FCA participation is active through FCA judgment. Next stage participation status not yet activated in my portal. And next stage voting eligibility also pending activation. The voting basis, next stage voting weight, where applicable, is calculated proportionally based on your original loan amount, consistent with the historical allocation method used for prior participant programs. So what I have to do after I just read my dashboard, I just click on review your next stage readiness options. So here again, I get a summary of what I paid, USP1, USP2, participation basis. It explains what I'm covered for, and then I'm going to go to the review payment plans. So select your next stage readiness option. My participation basis, as I showed you, is $14,400 in my particular case, okay? As we always do, we have the early activation window, okay, which provides the maximum discount available until July 31st, 2026. And you have 20 days, 3 hours, 13 minutes, or 12 minutes, and counting. And now each participant has 4 different options, okay? And now I want that people will please, and I really ask because I already have the experience that after I explain, people still have questions, which is normal, but please put your attention to me right now because it's very important. So the stated price for the next stage activation is actually the participation baseline, because this is going to cover us for the future readiness. And therefore, in my particular case, in order to continue for the next stage, I will have to pay $14,400, okay? Which is exactly the longest term option, which is 12 months deferred next stage plan. So if I select this option, I'll have to pay $14,400, and I can make it with 12 installments of $1,200 each installment, okay? Now, if I'm satisfied with that plan and it works well for me, I click on select this plan and I continue. Otherwise, I have other plans which are part of the early bird activation. The next plan is 6-month extended next stage plan. In that case, participants are going to receive about 17% discount if you choose the 6-month extended next stage plan, which means that instead of paying, in my particular case, $14,400, I only have to pay $11,999, which I can pay it with 6 payments, 6 installments of $1,999 each installment. So that's the second option, which is available in the early bird period of time. The next option, it is the 3 months next stage activation plan, which provides participants 33% discount versus the 12 months, which is the stated price. So if I choose the 3 months next stage activation plan, I get a 33% discount, okay? Which means that my total amount is $9,600, and I will have to make 3 payments of $3,200 each. And then I have the best value option for the early next stage activation, which provides the maximum discount, which is 50%. But what does it mean? It means that you pay now 50% upfront, and it basically covers you for the next stage activation plan. So those are the 4 options. Now, the difference between the the best option or the best value option, which is 50% now of the baseline, is that if you choose that, you get the best deal. However, it is non-refundable. Once you pay, you're locked in, that's it. However, the other plans, the 3 months plan, the 6 months plan, the 12 months plan, you can cancel anytime, which means that whatever money was cashed already is non-refundable. However, all future installments, you can cancel them if you do not want to continue. So those are the 4 options that each one of the participants will have. And of course, the numbers will change based on your participation basis, which is determined by the payment made for USP1 and USP2. Next, once you have selected a plan, you will have to click select this plan or select this plan. Once you have selected the plan, you will have to click on continue to terms. Once you click on continue to terms, you're going to see the CDApp Class Defense participation terms. Here you're going to get the summary of your selection. So the participation basis in my case was $14,400. Committed funding, yearly election, the early bird, participation fee, amount due now, total plan amount, and number of scheduled payments, 1. As we said, it's a cash payment, 1 payment. Here we have the key terms summary. Okay, the summary of the agreement, the full CDApp Class Defense participation terms, all the terms and services are here, which of course we encourage people to go through the agreement and read it. It's very clear and it's very simple. Once you have read the terms, you will have to click I've reviewed and accept my member election, blah, blah, blah. I understand that litigation tax, da, 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 da. And then you will have to click on accept and continue to payment. Once you click on accept and continue to payment, it will show you that your continuity election has been accepted, and you will be able to download the acceptance record, okay, which is important that you have it on record as well. And then you click continue to payment method. Once you click on continue to payment method, you're going to have 4 different ways to make your payment. So here you get a summary of the plan, okay? And then the first option is a PayPal or credit card, and then you click here. The next option is Interac email transfer, view Interac instructions, you click here. If you click here on the Interac email transfer, it shows you exactly who you need to send it to. So payee name, you have Profitable Giving Canada, and the email address that you do the Interac email transfer to is you simply click here, copy, and then paste it into your banking information, and then it's simply like copy and paste, and that's it. Okay, here you have some instructions, and then once you complete the payment on your banking system, then you have to come here and say, I have sent this payment, and provide the evidence. It will help PGC to manage all the records from all the other participants. Okay, so that's one option, the Interac email transfer. We also have the direct deposit check or bank draft. And then once you click on view deposit check instructions, you're going to have all the information here, which you will be able to copy it from here, paste it to your banking information, and then just simply follow the instructions. Once you have done this, then again, you click the same thing, I've made or sent this payment, and that's it. Then the third option or the fourth option is a bank wire or bank funds transfer for larger payments. view wire instructions. You click here, and then you simply have all the information of the account to where to send it to. Again, you copy it from here, you paste it into your banking information, and that's it. And then you basically come back here and say, I have sent this payment, and confirm, upload the evidence that you did that. And of course, if you want to pay with a credit card or with PayPal, you simply click on Pay with PayPal. Once you click the Pay with PayPal, you will have the option either to continue with PayPal or to choose with a credit card, because you don't have to do it directly with PayPal. You also will be able to do it directly with the credit card option that PayPal provides. Once you make your payment and you provide information, that information is going to be delivered to PGC, which then will confirm the payment, and all the information, including the receipt, including the agreement and everything else, is going to be available on the portal. Because please remember, your payment is 100% deductible under line 23200, right? So you will be able to provide that to the CRA and to apply for the deduction at source on line 23200. I know that many participants did that for USP1, USP2. The very vast majority of them received the deduction without any hesitation on hiccups. Some participants faced some back and forth questions with the CRA that asked for proof of payment or proof of this or proof of that, which we have provided them. But the very vast majority of the participants have actually received the payment, the information, and provided to the CRA, and they received the deduction. So this is the one part of the CD app. On top of it, we also have the support button on the CD app. Okay, in the support button, you can submit a request. You have a category here. You can put a subject, you can put a message, you can submit a request. We have actually developed, okay, an AI bot specifically for our class defense members, which is actually learned and educated by the context of the class defense. So maybe not every single question that you may have in your mind will be answered by the bot, because it's also very sensitive. But most of the questions, the regular and the simple questions, are going to be answered by the chatbot that we have created specifically for our tax members. So you will be able to use that. And this is a huge development now for this stage and also for the future. It's going to guide you through different processes and procedures that you will have to go through with the CRA. It can also provide answers for tax, specifically for your returns or any other question that you may have in the future. If you participate in the new philanthropy program and you have any question about that, it also will be able to help you and guide you through how to file, how to get a hold of documents, what to do where CRA communicates with you about this or that. I mean, this chatbot is now actually educated on the context of the class defense, but we every day make it smarter and smarter to support actually the PGC's agenda, which, as probably everybody knows, that PGC acts as the fourth sector, right? As the regulator of gifting arrangement and tax shelters, and helps individuals to deal with the CRA for any tax matters. So this chatbot is now designed to help the current class defense members, and also opens the gates for new members to come and support future activities as well. Then we also have the frequently asked questions. So we have questions and answers, okay, over here, that are there to basically provide some insight for people. If you have any question or answers, actually we fill this information with more questions and answers as we receive more questions from our participants. So you will be able to use the FAQs that we have here. And then we also have the guide itself, which is actually, this is the participant guide, which we don't have here the FAQs, we don't have here the support, we only have here the chatbot, which you can have communications with, about your position, about your status, about your situation, and it's only based on the class defense context and approved Q&As only. And of course, as I said in the beginning, we start very smooth and narrow, and we will expand it slowly to more and more features so the class defense members can actually enjoy an amazing AI bot service that was developed by PGC with all the context and knowledge and information that PGC gained over the last 13 years now. 13 years. A lot of information, a lot of data, and that's going to be a very helpful tool to the class defense members. And then once there is going to be, as we said, the voting system as well. The voting system is embedded here. Okay, you don't see it right now, but as soon as PGC raises a vote, all the class defense active members are going to receive that notification, and then you will have to log in. You will see on the screen pops up that there is a new voting for you, and they're going to see like a question, and then you will have to vote. And then later on, we're actually going to share information with the donors, with the participants and the members. We are going to share the information about the votes, about the weights, about who voted what, not in terms of actually identity, but as the overall class defense voting mechanism. So that's something that is also embedded into the class defense app, which is, as we call it, the City app. Okay, perfect. So I think that you like the new PGC system. We have worked so many years on that platform, and I think that we came to the point that we are now ready to release it. As I said, all the participants on this call today are going to receive an email, I believe within an hour or two. You know what? Let's be on the safe side. In the next 24 hours. It might be next hour, but just to be on the safe side, because as we speak, our technical team working behind the scenes to actually launch and release the system to all the participants, but we're going to do it in phases. So in phase number 1, only the participants on this call are going to get access to the system. And of course, we encourage people, go to the dashboard, activate your next stage readiness now. Do not wait. Those who wait at the end of the day, unfortunately, pay the most. Those who act fast, it also helps PGC, it also helps the class defense to get funded, right? And it helps you because then you pay the least amount of money. So that's what we encourage you to do right away once you get the access to the City app. So Shai, before I move on to some of the polls questions we have, do you have any comments or insights?
Well, it's exciting to finally see this massive product come alive. And it couldn't have come at a better time, because we're now coming to the point where those votes become really crucial. Like if there's a settlement issue, just think about that one number, okay? Imagine that it comes down to a question in a settlement with the CRA, and they say, we're ready to give you 50% of the credits, and that's it, walk away. That might infuriate half of the people, and that might sound like a godsend to half of the people. And so as a board member of PGC, as a director at Justice, no matter what hat I'm wearing, I just see that I have my own opinions, and to the extent that I'm a participant, I think I should have a say. But just because I have predictions and I have my own opinions, it doesn't mean that what is right for me is right for another participant. So there has to be a system to make sure that that doesn't cause friction in participating. We should all have to be able to grapple with that and still be supporting the class. And this is, this is our way of doing it. And to be able to now, with the rise of AI, to be able to incorporate that, which we didn't have that element before, and that is what we've now been able to integrate. Imagine that we have an AI machine that is generated with a brain just like the legal brain of exactly what we are doing. And it filters all of your personal information when you ask questions about it to apply to you. You don't even have to ask us questions. Some people, they might not want to talk to us because of privacy issues. Now you can talk to our brain through the bot. And this way you could have exact answers. Of course, you know, if you're going to use those things, it should be after you review them carefully or your counsel reviews them. But this is our bot, and it's able to give you answers if we're not immediately available, and you can ask it questions the way you would ask ChatGPT questions, but it's trained in our world. So it allows us to give you better service, and of course it ensures a kind of consistent messaging system for everybody. So if to see this come alive and to intersect with new technologies and new features at a time when you can really see that this vote is going to happen, and there's people that, you know, they have a lot at stake, Mickey, and those people should have more of a say. If a person, for example, purchased the tax shelter for, let's say, $1 million, and another person purchased the tax shelter for $10,000, they're not just, in that case, equal individuals with I vote for 50% and I vote for 70%. No, because their vote is actually a factor of their participation quantum. So you are an individual, but your quantum of your vote is based on what you're actually paying for. Some people are supporting the class more because they have more at stake, and vice versa. So I think there is a minimum participation, but you know, the participation usually is a function of someone's, you know, what they have, their stake in all of this. And therefore it becomes a super fair and a super precise kind of democracy, doesn't it? Like your vote is based on, in this case, how much, you know, you are at stake. And so I like it very much. And to be able to incorporate the AI and the voting at the same time, I think it rounds out the whole system. And to allow people to really predict for themselves what they think is the most likely state of affairs, and also they know their own finances.
Right.
So I think it allows flexibility for everybody to see things differently, but all have the same goal, which is to support the class no matter what happens, and we're ready for what happens.
Exactly. Now imagine that, you know, we talked about the AI and everything else. I mean, if you think about ChatGPT or OpenAI 5 years ago and today, right? You see the huge distance, right? So imagine that our class defense members are going to get a hold of that amazing system. That they're going to be the first movers, right? Which is going to help them to manage the affairs right now with this current class defense, but also for the future. Any question.
They train it, right?
Exactly.
And also gets to know you. So our system will get to know you, so you'll have better and better customer service, because people are not perfect, but AI is much better in most cases, right? Yeah.
But just in case, I also would say something that
mistakes happen, and we want to hear. So if anything looks not okay to you, let us know, please.
Exactly. Also, some people, I mean, just don't like to talk to AI or chatbots. For that, you have the support ticket. However, once you submit a support ticket, okay, we cannot guarantee that we are going to answer within 10, 15 minutes or 24 hours. It might take time. It's gonna go to the loop. We have in PGC, we have of course Cynthia, where we have Jay, we have myself. We're all overlooking and watching those tickets. However, since we're going probably be like overwhelmed with many requests, as soon as you post something, please do not expect us to answer immediately. We see it. We're probably going to get back to you, but it may take some time. Okay, just please understand that. Okay, so I think that now it's time to, before we just finish, I think it's time to raise some questions. So